Peace. 7 Sticks, The Secret of Millennium's 7 by Hatem Giame. Creativity's Tale, read by the author. During the times when animals spoke to each other, Mr. Crocodile set out to find some food for him and his wife. He swam all over the river but could find nothing. He was hungry and tired, so he stopped on the shore in the shade of a fruit tree. This tree happened to belong to Mr. Monkey, and he was full of curiosity. He chose this tree because he loved to watch the water, and he dreamed of one day being able to travel upon the water. This was an incredible dream considering the fact that Mr. Monkey was terrified of water and could not swim to save his life. This fear and lack of skill was not limited to Mr. Monkey. All of his relatives had the same issue. This is why Mr. Monkey was the only monkey in this particular tree. Other monkeys refused to get within 20 feet of any kind of water, but Mr. Monkey was a dreamer, and he wanted to be the first monkey to cross the river without getting wet. Sitting in his tree, eating all the fruits that he desired, he happened to notice Mr. Crocodile sitting below his tree. And being dangerously curious, he decided to strike up a conversation. "Hey, Mr. Crocodile, how are you doing today?" Mr. Crocodile was shocked that a monkey was this close to the water, but he spoke anyway. "I'm doing all right, but I could be excellent if you could help me find some meat to eat." Mr. Monkey was always willing to be helpful, so he started looking around from the treetop, but he could see nothing that Mr. Crocodile could eat. "Sorry, Mr. Crocodile, I don't see anything." Monkey paused for a second and thought about all the fruit that his tree produced and decided to offer some to Mr. Crocodile. "Mr. Crocodile, I can't offer you any meat, but I can offer you some of this delicious fruit that I have been blessed with." Mr. Crocodile, looking up, never noticed that trees had stuff growing on them. "Fruit? What is fruit?" Mr. Monkey was shocked by his question because he could not imagine any animal that did not eat fruit, let alone not know what it was. "Fruit, my dear Crocodile, is nature's gift to animal kind. It is the sweetest and best food on the planet." Mr. Crocodile, looking up at the monkey with doubt. "I feel the same way about flesh." The monkey thought about it, and then a good idea came to him. "Well, Mr. Crocodile, fruit has flesh, and it also has bone." The crocodile, a little more interested, looked up at this strange thing called fruit to see if it had flesh, and now he wanted to taste it to see if it had bone. "Since I am hungry and there's no fruit anywhere near, I will try your fruit." Mr. Monkey jumped for joy and grabbed a nice piece of fruit and tossed it down to Mr. Crocodile. Mr. Crocodile took the fruit into his powerful jaws and bit through the skin and into the flesh. Then he ran into a big seed and crushed it as well. The juice of the fruit dripped onto his tongue, and he was in love. He had not tasted anything in his life that was so sweet. After he finished that one, he asked Mr. Monkey for another one, and Mr. Monkey obliged. Mr. Crocodile and Mr. Monkey sat all day talking and eating fruit. Mr. Monkey would throw it down and Mr. Crocodile would gobble it up. They got to know each other and became somewhat friends. For the next few days, instead of going hunting, Mr. Crocodile would go to Mr. Monkey's tree and they would eat fruit and talk forest politics or about the lack of meat, how to find fruit trees, and etc. Each day their friendship grew and they began to trust each other with their animal secrets. Mr. Monkey even let it slip that he always wanted to be the first monkey to cross the river and not get wet. The next morning when Mr. Crocodile was leaving the house, before he could get out, Miss Crocodile started to complain about the lack of food he was bringing home. They had a crocodile argument. Mr. Crocodile left home angry. Arriving at Mr. Monkey's tree, Mr. Crocodile wasn't his regular joyful self, and Mr. Monkey noticed it. "Mr. Crocodile, what is ailing you today?" Mr. Crocodile stayed quiet, trying to come up with the right words to tell Mr. Monkey about his marital problem. Well, Mr. Monkey, my wife is upset with me about the food situation. I have not been bringing home any meat lately, and she's upset because she feels she is carrying the weight of the household. Monkey was shocked to hear about his problem and kind of hurt because Mr. Crocodile had been coming to his tree for days, and they talked for hours, and his friend never mentioned the fact that he was married. Mr. Crocodile, you never mentioned you had a wife. If you would have told me that, I would have sent you home with fruit for her as well. Mr. Crocodile looked up and said, you would do that for me? Sure, that is what friends are for. Mr. Monkey then dropped a whole lot of fruit for Mr. Crocodile to take home with him. Mr. Crocodile went directly home to introduce his wife to this new food. When he swam in with it, she at first refused to eat it, but with a lot of persuasion and a good dose of hunger, she gave in. She slowly bit into the fruit, and her reaction was very similar to Mr. Crocodile. But she immediately thought about the meat angle. Mister, that's what Mrs. Crocodile called him. This was her love name for him. This is surely good, but I can't help but to think how good an animal would be that eat this fruit every day. Why don't you bring him here so we can split him? I bet he would taste marvelous. Mr. Crocodile was furious that she would consider eating his friend, and after he just fed them too. No, I will not bring my friend over here so that we can eat him. Mr. Crocodile said it in a way that Mrs. Crocodile knew it was final. So she had to come up with an alternative way to get hold of this monkey. The next day, Mr. Crocodile left out and went to meet Mr. Monkey. They ate food all day and talked about everything under the sun. This went on for weeks. They became the best of friends. One evening, when Mr. returned from the fruit tree, he found his wife laying on her back. Now, for a crocodile, this is a bad thing. Lying on your back in crocodile body language means that you are close to dying. Mr. Crocodile ran to her side and asked her what was wrong. She refused to tell him because she knew that he would refuse to help her. Wife, I will do whatever is needed to help you get better. Just tell me what I need to do. Mrs. Crocodile knew that she had her. Now she moaned out loud, and if she was in severe pain, and whispered, "Do you swear the crocodile oath?" Mr. Crocodile lifted the most valuable thing to a crocodile, their tails in the air, and said, "I swear on the sacred crocodile tail that I will do all within my power to help you." Trying to hold back a smile of victory, she started shedding gigantic crocodile tears and coughing. Mr. Crocodile did everything in his power to make her comfortable. "My husband, I'm dying, and there's only one thing that could save me." Mr. Crocodile was on the verge of tears. "Name it, and I will get it for you." This was the moment that she was waiting for. "The only thing that can save me is a monkey's heart." This hit Mr. Crocodile like a sledgehammer. There was nothing he could do. He had already made the crocodile oath, so he had to go get the monkey. Early the next morning, Miss Crocodile was doing no better. She was an excellent actress. Mr. Crocodile had to bring his wife the only friend that he had so that he could be eaten. He struggled with this through all day. He was swimming up and down the river trying to come up with different solutions to his problem, but all roads led back to taking Monkey to be devoured by his wife. He made it to the tree later than usual, and when he got there, he was kind of distant. Monkey paid no attention and struck up a conversation with Mr. Crocodile. Halfway through the conversation, Mr. Crocodile asked Mr. Monkey if he wanted to make his dream come true and be the first monkey in the history of monkeys to cross the river without getting wet. Mr. Monkey started screaming, "Yes, yes, yes. You would do that for me?" "Sure, that's what friends are for." So Monkey jumped on the crocodile's back, and Mr. Crocodile started out slowly. Mr. Monkey was on his back, showboating for all the other monkeys to see. As Mr. Crocodile reached the deep water, he decided that his friend deserved to know the truth. "Mr. Monkey, my wife is dying, and I'm told that the only thing that can save her is a monkey heart." Mr. Monkey's blood began to run cold. He was a monkey on the back of a meat eater in the middle of the water. Mr. Monkey had to come up with something quick to get out of this situation. Hey, Mr. Crocodile, what is exactly wrong with your wife? I don't know exactly, but her cure requires a monkey heart, and since I swore on my sacred tail, I had to bring you to her. That was it. That was it. That was the little edge that the monkey needed to get out of this mess. So crocodiles hold their tails sacred, just like monkeys hold their heart sacred. Too bad I can't help you. Mr. Crocodile stopped in the middle of the water and turned his neck around to look at the monkey. What do you mean you can't help me? Monkey tried to keep his cool and not panic. Monkeys hold their hearts sacred and keep it in the safest place in the whole world for a monkey. Mr. Crocodile really interested now. And where is that? Mr. Monkey leaping on this opportunity to get free. In our favorite tree, of course. Mr. Monkey paused so that he can make sure that what he said had sunk into the crocodile's thick skull. Hey, Mr. Crocodile, if you take me back to my tree, I will get my heart, and you can just take it over to your wife, if that will help. Mr. Crocodile was thrilled because this solved his problem. Now he could keep his word without killing his friend. So he turned around in the water and started back for the monkey's tree. Monkey's heart started pounding because at any second he felt the crocodile might hear his heart beating like a drum in his chest. Soon as Mr. Monkey got within reach of his tree, he jumped higher than he ever jumped and climbed for his life. Mr. Crocodile was still waiting for him to bring his heart down. Mr. Monkey broke some loose tree limbs and some rotten fruit and began throwing them at the crocodile, screaming, "You foolish crocodile, get away from my tree, trying to take me to your wife so that she could eat me. We could never be friends." That is the end of the story, and I hope that you enjoyed it, Father, Creativity said. And then she sat down. When she sat down, the youngest brother, Truth, stood and greeted everyone. My brothers and sisters, it has been a long time since we have sat at this table together. Being last, I will not repeat what some of my wiser and older siblings have already said, so I'll get to my favorite story told to me by our Father. This was a reading from Seven Sticks, The Secret of Millennium 7 by Tim Giammi, read by the author.